morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Obadwi making your Saratoga Talking Horses debut. I'm Andy Serling, and I was going to say it's almost afternoon. We were closing in on being that late today, but Sarah, yesterday your first opening day at Saratoga, how'd it go?
It was incredible. I mean, first opening day working here, not first
Oh,
opening
you've been here for
I
opening days.
have,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I actually saw Golden Pal opening day a couple years ago. That was very cool. Came for another opening day. I think I picked Tom Amos's horse in the Schuylerville.
That was a dumb move.
It was, but
Yeah.
yesterday's much better.
It's really,
so.
you need to learn that. Don't pick Tom's horses in
I
Saratoga.
know.
He actually had a good meet. Last couple meets, he's actually done okay. It's miracles never cease. But it's a little quieter today. And for people who've been around Saratoga, it's always sort of the August place to be, and the crowds really start to come in about the third week. But fortunately, we managed to get through yesterday's card, which was a good thing. And off the turf is going to happen sometimes, and I guess if it's going to happen, it's happened today.
Let's get it out of the way.
Well, I wish you could get them out of the way. I wish they told us there were going to be
I know. I wish we could
four.
just schedule the weather.
I'm looking
but
for two, but anyway, it's a long meet, a lot of good stuff coming up. We'll talk about today's card after you head over to Naira Bets. Use the promo code SPA200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Play through Naira Bets. We have lots of stuff today. Pick six carryover, $109,629 in the pick six. There was a horse in the last race not covered in the pick five, actually. I can't remember if we must have had a pick five carryover at some point up here, but I can't remember it. Race number, what else we got? The middle pick four. Races 2, 4, and 7 in our 10 race cards for the pick fours. We also have the Traps Bankroll Builder. If you bet 50 to win on one horse in any or all of the selected Saratoga Stakes races and head over to Naira Bets for more information, you get $20 bonus per race. Opt in over at Naira Bets. Also, we have the Saratoga. I thought we might not have had that because we didn't mention it yesterday. 5 o'clock today, $300 buy-in. $300 buy-in, cash and seat prizes. You have till 5 o'clock today. Go to naira.com/contests. And we also have Saratoga Live, 1 to 6:30 today. Back to the normal 1 o'clock starts. FS2 for all of the action. Race number 1, couple of scratches in here, including the 8 Poseidon's Mist. And you and I have both landed on the same horse, Awesome Check.
Surprised you picked this horse. You don't generally go for the first-time starters without great training stats to back them up, as DePaz doesn't exactly.
I love Horacio De Paz.
I do too.
I am a very big member of Horacio's fan club.
Do you have a little shirt with a heart on it
I
as
would
well?
happily have
I would
one.
wear
I don't
that
know.
as
He should
well.
make them. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you
let
should
him
send
know.
them
He's
out.
publicist. We'll contact his publicist.
Absolutely. Maybe his PR
Why are you
person.
surprised I picked this horse? The horse has been working well. The workout reports have been good. Horacio's good. Second dam was okay. The dam herself was pretty good. Why wouldn't I want this? Who am I supposed to want as opposed to this horse?
Well, this one just, he doesn't generally have good stats with first-time starters for his 2-year-olds in dirt sprints. He's only 1 for 28, though.
I picked the one.
You
Paid
did?
$20.
Oh,
yeah.
so that's why.
My last winner.
Moam?
I'm having, by the way, we're presented by Saratoga Spring Water. And I'm going to have one because we don't have any extras on the set right now. We got to rectify that.
At least
Go
you
ahead.
support
I
what you're
apologize.
advertising. That's okay. 6 of them have finished in the money, so it's not as though they're complete flops outside of this one. So certainly capable. And, of course, the female family of this one, you can trace back a little ways to Cara Raffaella, the dam of Bernardini, who won our Preakness, Jim
I'm
Dandy,
so old.
and
I'm
Travers.
so old. I saw her race.
Her
There isn't a ton
race.
of pedigree as far as foals that horses are halves to in this race.
Right.
I mean, there's a little pedigree if you go through, like on the 7, she takes cash. There's a little pedigree in there, but there just isn't.
There's
that
really not much going on
No,
in here
it's-
outside
it's-
of this horse, and I only went to the one with experience for second, thinking that this one could improve on the surface change, as it's more of a dirt pedigree. But I think that this is a good field to debut against if you have at least a little something going on, because I didn't see it with everybody else like you.
I will not argue against that at all. Interesting to see the Salamini, Book of Wisdom. Salamini is standing out at McMahon. Has been kind of a hot sire a little bit, but this horse after 2 horses that can't run at all. I have Concerti second because I'm friends with Kirk Wyckoff at 3 Diamonds, and I figured I'd throw him in. I had him third, actually. I picked 682. But I found a stat for Joe Sharp yesterday, and the horse lost. So it's now 0 for 13 with none hitting the board with 2-year-old first-time starters in dirt sprints in Saratoga. So that's not a very good stat. But this is a race where if he's going to hit the board,
This is the time.
could be the time.
Right, and Mott, who you mentioned a moment ago, debuted a pretty decent first-time starter yesterday with Sugar High.
Agreed.
That was a very impressive maiden win. I know that you posted how the buyer speed figure for that race was higher than the stakes later on, so that's definitely one to watch moving forward.
Apparently that was a criticism, by the way.
Just a fact.
On Twitter, facts are criticisms.
I know, it's hard out there.
It's not an easy landscape. It's not an easy landscape when pictures of me riding a bike apparently interest
Tremendous
people.
machine.
Race number 2, Dreamlike is back, and I know you've all been waiting for Dreamlike, and here's Dreamlike's third place finish in the Wood Memorial, and you perhaps, and I think you guys had the picks for the third race up there, so get the second up, please, when we come back. You know, Sarah, he'll probably win. He's the controlling speed in here. That second race of his bothers me. I know it was a big fig, but I just hate when horses lose at 1-5 like that. And where's he been for the last 3.5 months? I don't really think they put him aside and said, let's wait for Saratoga with this horse.
There's a lot of fair points to take a shot against a horse like this at the extremely short price he's going to be. I just couldn't get past him in this spot. I mean, all of his races are higher buyer speed figures than anyone has run to date. Now, you might argue that he doesn't necessarily have that winning instinct as he has hit the board without winning in all 3 of his starts, but it's not like he faced nobodies in the Wood Memorial. I know we both had some interest in Hitcho for the Belmont, who ran a sneaky good Kentucky Derby. Lord Miles isn't slow either. And he was also inside of horses that were all bumping against each other in the stretch.
Oh,
so
he ran well. No, I'm not, there's no, I have no knock on this horse as far as the races he ran, and he runs them. He's going to win this race. But he's going to be a crazy short price. I don't love the layoff after that, but he's probably going to win this race. Only a fool would suggest that he's not an enormously likely winner.
And
but
you're not a fool.
Well, I am a fool. But I have a question, and maybe if Frank is listening, he can text me. Is the track muddy and harrowed or muddy and sealed? It's harrowed. Look, it's good at
It's
harrowed.
good.
That it changed. Just
drying out.
They read my mind
They
up in the
did.
changes.
One
that,
of the
you
many
guys are
things our
awesome.
staff is capable
I think
of.
that's extremely important.
It is.
Because, and we talk about dogging horses, and I don't know where you stand on it, but I don't believe that moisture is that big an issue as much as harrowed versus sealed.
I think it's
they're-
more of a differentiator.
I think it's the sealed harrowed. You know, a good harrowed track is much closer to a fast harrowed track as opposed to even a muddy harrowed track as opposed to a sloppy sealed track or a muddy sealed track. At least for me. Now, other people can feel free to disagree. That's the way the game works.
Right. And I think horses that run well over these certain surfaces, you want to take into consideration something that you mentioned several times, that not all wet tracks are the same kind of surface, even if they did get the same rating. So, of course, with a different rating as well, I think it does make a difference.
And the race, and we'll take a look at O'Kasich's first race where he finished second to Harrodsburg, was very good. And I thought he ran well. Now, Harrodsburg did all the work in the air. He ran fast early. But this horse really ran towards the end. And that track he was on last time was ridiculous. I mean, that's the one where Mystical Curlin got the 103 buyer. He
Right.
couldn't come back and beat a subpar field in his next start, even with a
Regressed
sealed track. Even with a sealed track,
yes.
right. And it's just like that race lives in some sort of, Alice in
mystical
Wonderland
island,
type
yeah.
world
Yeah.
that just doesn't matter. And
Right.
you think about the fact that he was 3-5 last time, and it's not as though his first figure is so far off of Todd's horse that he can't take a step forward, especially if Dreamlike takes another step back. So
Right.
I thought, and the other thing is, isn't he supposed to be a bit forward in here, so not necessarily compromised by Dreamlike? So I thought I'd take a small shot to beat him in a rare case where you're going to get Chad Brown a much bigger price.
Right, and I picked him second. I have no argument with that. And even last time out, horses weren't necessarily making up ground in that race either. He was a little bit further back, and he was also wide throughout on a track where a horse just wired the field from the inside, and that race that does live in isolation, as you mentioned. So I think that just getting back to at least a surface a little more similar to the one that he debuted on, he could improve third time out.
That was a pretty strong figure. It's not as though he hasn't done it. I want Moore's Law to be good. Moore's Law, by the way, is always fun to look up what these things mean. It's about the capacity in computer chips, I think, for
We've
information
discussed.
doubling every certain number of years.
Yeah, it's a
Moore's
real
Law.
creative
It's
name.
kind of cool. I think he's a neat horse, and I think he's going to be okay, and a mile and eighth will help. He's just got to get so much faster to be competitive here, but I kind of have a thing for him, and right up will be close early. We'll see what happens. But listen, Dreamlike's an interesting horse because if he runs back to those figures and he wins this race convincingly, I
Stakes
don't
has
know
to
if
be
he can get to
next.
Pennsylvania Derby or something like that, but you imagine they'd like to get a race, and give him time to get it, or maybe they can build on it for later in the year and next year because he obviously has an enormous amount of ability. Race number 3. Obviously, this one was not going to be an uber competitive race coming off the turf, unfortunately. And we have the same picks. We'll start, though, with Modern Love, the replay. I mean, it's sort of based on what they've done, and you just have no form whatsoever to really go on. And the two other horses, Modern Love or Quarrel, are probably going to win this race, right? 95% of the time.
You would have to think so based on what we've seen from them already. And this one at least does have the win over a dirt track that was going a route of ground, even though that was an off the turf
And
race.
this will be a mile in the
Yes, that's a good point.
people
to
that
bring up.
were upset that we didn't use
Certain
the
trainers
the-
sometimes don't even necessarily know. So we'll get a race out of the chute before the stakes race out of the chute.
Ooh, it's going to really tell us a lot.
I know.
It's going to change everything for me. How about you?
I have to go through. I need like maybe a half-hour break to
Have you
revise
considered
all
going
of my
over and watching the
selections.
start of a race? Last year there were those two huge things that people made such a big deal about. And
One's
they
right
picked-
over there?
Right, the tree house that you so ably were conducting interviews in yesterday. Sarah had
Ready
the
to jump off
least
the railing?
enviable job in her first day working for us on opening day in Saratoga, doing in-crowd interviews.
Hey, I
which
met
some
a
you
lot
saw.
of
You
fun
did-
people out there.
You did incredibly well. I was very impressed. It's not easy, and I was saying like I would not want that job.
You don't want to go out in the crowd and talk to random strangers?
They're hard. It's hard.
Yes.
And the other thing is, for me, I can only speak for myself. I always found these shows, two people talking, sort of easy. It's conversational. But the first time they give you a mic, the first time I did prattles by myself in the mid '90s, I was like a deer in the headlights because you're by yourself. There's nobody prompting you. It's hard, and I thought you did extremely well, especially given it was your first time doing it.
Thank you. I can live with it. It certainly could have been worse, so I
It
will.
always be worse.
I will take it and run for a
We can
next
find
time out
worse.
if there is one. So
No,
not
you
the
were
worst
you
debut.
were terrific, but
It
it's
was
a
all right.
thankless job.
Well, thank you.
The other thing is I just also prefer the speed, and I know that Life, Love, and Laughter could be forward here as well, but I like the speed of Quarrel, and we'll show Quarrel's maiden race, the debut, finishing second to Personal Pursuit that day. This horse obviously can handle the surfaces. 2-horse race, you took this one as well. Go ahead.
I mean, if this horse runs back to this race, which really was her better dirt race of her second time out, you do know that she can also handle a route of ground, even though that was on turf, and this second place finish first time out. I mean, this was a pretty solid performance. She also adds the blinkers today, so perhaps she could show even a little bit more speed. I just think she makes a ton of sense in here, and a repeat of this performance makes her very dangerous in what is now only a 4-horse field. She will also be outside. It's a very quick run into the first turn in these chute races, so perhaps she gets to see a little bit more of the action unfold ahead of her, if there is any, or take command early.
And I wasn't allowed to pick Bobby Robato horses. My former co-host made fun of me one day on the show for picking all of Bobby's
Like
horses.
you'd never
So
break
now
the
that
rules?
Anthony's not here, I should text him and let him know and say I'm now picking Bobby Robato horses. He's not here to stop me. And I actually like this horse in the turf. I thought
I picked
got
her
a
on the turf
little
last
bit of a
time.
tepid ride last time out when she should have been more
And the trip
aggressive. Though
before
it was
that,
it was a
too.
tough field on the turf.
Right.
See what happens in race number 3. Race number 4 is the Wilton. I believe our friend Cherie DeVoe won this race last year with Tarabi.
Yes.
Well, she worked for Chad Brown in the past, and he has 2 in here and a pretty strong hand. And Sacred Wish was an enormous scratch in here. Where are we going with Unsung Melody?
Speed, hopefully, from the inside.
Well, she has speed.
She does. And that's what I have going for her. She should be able to stretch out. There is a little bit of Grand Dam pedigree to suggest she should at least get
Well,
a
Grand
mile.
Dam pedigree for the
Yes.
stretching out.
Mhm.
Really?
I know. I'm diving deep
Not
in there to
great
make
Grand
my case.
Dam pedigree for
no,
stretching
not
out?
great, like the first horse that we talked about in the
Mediocre
opener.
great pedigrees.
I got to make a case somewhere, right? I like that she at least comes off a race where she ran well versus, I know it was the Acorn. I know it was much tougher company, and you can't even say that the 2 for Chad Brown ran poorly whatsoever, but
Well, they didn't run particularly well.
they didn't run that well, and they also regressed. With her, at least she's got a better figure last time out. She has that race in her second start, which was over a track with some moisture in it. So depending on what kind of condition we have to the surface by that point, I know she can at least handle some of it. And that was against Punch Bowl in her second race, who ran her down, even though she was up front early. It was a pretty decent horse for Brad Cox. I know that the Ellis Park surface has been a little bit more speed favoring in general, but I think that if she's able to sustain her speed over a route of ground, I didn't see a ton of other speed in here unless they really sent randomized.
Yeah, they're going to send randomized. Punch Bowl. Has she run since the Alcibiades?
I don't know. I don't know that much about her.
You mentioned her, and I'm trying to think of who she was. And first I was thinking, do you know that, by the way, that the wet paint wasn't even nominated to the CCA Oaks?
Where are they
Makes
going
me
with
kind
her?
of wonder where she is. I mean, how could she not be nominated? All she's got to do is face Tom. I mean, she lost to Tom Amos last time. So,
I mean,
for what it's worth, I looked at some stats. I don't know if you looked these off. First of all, not great Lasix off stats. That worries me a little bit with her. Also, stretch out numbers for John Ortiz. He's 11 for 108, $1.04 ROI. Off of a win, he's 0 for 13 with 5 hitting the board. 4 of them were short prices. That worried me a little bit, the stretch out numbers. And randomized is going. And as you know, I'm not Mr. Kickback, but given how she ran when she broke her maiden, and I didn't want to show 87 replays, I didn't know Sacred Wish would scratch, she's going to be forward and outside of horses and out of kickback. Not Manny's fault. There was a lot of speed last time. She broke towards the inside. She never got comfortable. And listen, I want her to be good, but her maiden race was good. Today is the day, though. She needs to run well today.
is it fair to at least question a little bit how good that maiden race was?
Sure.
Because you have the second and third place finishers,
Sure.
kind of these horses that are racking up their chances hitting the board. And even
I agree.
the fourth place finisher had to drop to
Well,
maiden
but
40 to win.
they got beaten 100.
right,
to be
but
fair.
I don't know that that 92 is necessarily representative of what we'll see again.
Well, okay, that's fair, except 2 different people I know are figure makers, one of whom is close to the figures. Both said to me that figure should have been higher, not lower.
Okay.
So, but I don't, listen, you have to question. Of course, it's not, I don't think a figure's wrong. You have to question if we're ever going to see that from her again.
Exactly.
And today is the day we're supposed to see it, and she's going to be forward in here. A seed. We'll take a look at her in the 8 bells. And our friend David Aragona made an interesting point to me the other day. We were talking about it, and he said, start taking a look at the horses out of the 8 bells. It's not necessarily coming up as strong as that figure. And the seed, more than randomized last time, in my opinion. She was awful in the Acorn. She got to the rail. The rail, I'm not saying the rail was gold that day, but it certainly was a good place to be on the Friday before the Belmont. She was terrible in that race. She had no excuse.
I think she was just uncomfortable. If you watch how she was early, she was really forward,
Slow.
and the horse made a move to her outside, and then she kind of got a little bit more headstrong and keen and was taken back a little bit. So I don't think she was happy with where she was sitting early in that race. And in her prior races, she had made up ground later in the game. So I think that she's more comfortable with a trip like she got in the 8 bells versus where she was last time.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with that, and I'm also going to note her maiden race where she got herself into significant traffic in there. In fact, basically cut a horse off as she was coming for home in that race. So I'm not so sure she's a horse that hasn't shown that she can run between traffic. I did not like her last race. I think she is the second likeliest winner because I don't like the other horses in here, but I'm going to hope that randomized gets it done. But listen, I have no problem with somebody that says I don't trust randomized because she's kind of a do or die horse. I mean, she may turn out to be really good, and she's going to get the right kind of trip here to show that, but she could be a phony. There's no question about it. Race number 5 starts off the pick 6, $109,000. We've had 2 huge one-day carryovers the last week, right? That 139 at Belmont, 109 in this one.
Yeah. So you didn't have 5 of 6 yesterday?
I don't play the pick 6 here anymore.
No.
There's a variety of reasons for it. I used to play pick 6 almost every day.
At least it's $1 minimum.
Oh, I know. I'm extremely proud that we got away from the jackpots. I mean, you know very clearly my position on the jackpots.
I know you have
and
lots
it's
of
been-
feelings about that, and I agree with them.
Yeah, it's a
Silly.
disaster of a bet for a lot of reasons, and I'm glad that we changed that. So race number 5. We have a replay for Empire Sky.
We do.
I know Empire Sky has kind of loser written on him with 7 seconds and thirds and 8 starts. But I thought if he runs back to this race, this dirt race, I just thought he was better than these horses.
I think he's certainly better on dirt. And when you look at all of those chances, only 2 of them were on this surface. So he doesn't have quite that lifetime loser look that you might see at first glance. Both of his dirt races were on the board. And I think that they were better than what we've seen from him on the turf in general. I mean, this was a decent performance because while he broke okay, he ended up shuffled back a little bit, was on the inside, had to wait for room, and then lost by a head to a horse that actually did come back to win the other day at Finger Lakes. So while that doesn't necessarily say that much about the level of competition, at least he wasn't facing nobody at all. I thought that was a really good effort from him.
I agree. What is this 2 picks here, Sarah? What are you doing here?
I don't know. I had all of them up a moment ago. I went.
Maybe they didn't like them in the truck, and they decided
Yeah, they
to
were
start
like,
to be your
no,
picks.
that's
No, it's a
garbage. We gotta
bad
get rid of
pick by
those. No,
Sarah.
I went 6-9.
What? You're 7-4-6-9.
Nope, I went 6-9-10-7. So I don't know
Your
where
picks in this
4
race are
is-
6-9-10-7.
Yeah, I don't know where 4
That's
is
very
coming
close
from.
to 7-4. I can't even find a multiple of 11 among those horses in there, actually.
I
Is there
swear
some
with the
combination
moment I
equals
looked, they
22?
were correct, and then they changed. So
You know,
anyway,
could you guys find a way to change my picks when they suck, and maybe I can get the right picks up there?
why don't they just decide for us? That would be a great idea, and then we can just
Believe
talk
me,
about
there are
whoever
plenty
they
of
put
days
up.
that I'd be
So
I couldn't do any worse.
I'd be grateful.
I don't want to. You know, we could have a show where we have to defend the picks that they make up
That
for
could
us.
be a fun
That
exercise,
would be a
kind of
really
like a
good
brain
show.
teaser.
Yeah, we'll
Better
play,
than
we'll play a
Wordle,
lot of Grateful
perhaps.
Dead in the background when we do that.
Anyway,
by the way,
they're correct now, so that works out.
yeah, Empire Sky also had a big trip in that race that we showed as well. So
Right.
I just think he's way the horse to beat. What is your unified story here?
I just think it's interesting that John Velasquez ends up on this horse. They teamed up, him and trainer Mark Hennig, for a winner with a first-time starter.
With a lot of pedigree.
At 22-1. While this one doesn't have the same type of pedigree, I actually liked this one on the dirt quite a bit more than the turf. And this is something that Maggie and I actually talked about the other day, and I tend to agree based on numbers that Unified has better dirt stats with his progeny than turf stats. He's 14% with his dirt sprinters and 9% with his turf sprinters. And while he has low debut stat numbers, this one just 11% overall versus the 6% for the 3-year-olds. Just reaching out to John Velasquez for this one with a horse that sold for quite a bit higher as a yearling, $80,000, as opposed to what for Unified stands for. I saw a lot of horses that had their shots that I wanted to take at least a new face to a group like
Does
this.
it not worry you, though, that this horse was entered to run on the turf first time out and is now running in a dirt race?
Do you think that maybe they looked at the weather and hoped that this race would come off, or do you think
No.
it was turf intentions the whole time?
I think it was probably turf intention. Maybe
Okay.
it wasn't. Maybe you're right. Maybe Mark figured you want to get a race in the horse anyway. But in general, I don't go in that direction. What do we do with the 7 Whiskey and Wine, who frankly has been atrocious in his 2 races? He did run against a pretty good field, but I mean, watching his first race, he broke a little slow. But my God, he was awful.
He broke slow second time out too. I mean, he
It's
was
just, oh, I know. I wonder. At this point, you have to wonder if this horse could run at all.
right, which is absolutely a fair question. But I think
I've got
that
him second, so obviously I'm hopeful he can.
right, you're just looking for a horse that maybe has something that we haven't seen yet because he hasn't even really shown us an opportunity to run well. But maybe he gets out of the gate today and we see something we haven't seen before. I like that he's returning to dirt 2 because perhaps they might believe that it's just a matter of gate issues with him and there's some hope for something else.
Yeah, no, I'm with. I mean, listen, they paid a lot of money for him, so somewhere along the line, you have to hope that he can show something. I think Russi is dangerous. Near has faced some pretty good fields. Was in a good field last time out. Chased outside. The rail was good. The winner wired the field. Think that horse has some talent. Thought this horse was dangerous for the Bonds as well. At least there's some dirt for him in this race.
Right.
And Scherzando can hang on the dirt just like he does in the turf. And
Exactly.
Get
He's
checks.
had more dirt chances than he has had turf chances.
Made
so
$100,000.
good for him.
We are going to take a break, and we are going to hear from our wonderful sponsors at Saratoga Water. But don't worry, Sarah and I will be right back.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.